Hi, welcome to Ask Me About Dyslexia. My name is Pam Spock and I'm a dyslexia specialist. And today I have a really special guest here. This is my friend and dyslexia mentor, Becky Hightower. And she is an academic language therapist. And we're going to learn all about what that is. And we're just so glad that you're here today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I'm here today with Becky Hightower, who is an academic language therapist, and she is certified through ALTA, which is let me get this right, the Academic Language Therapist Association. I will eventually get that in my brain. There's a lot of words to remember. But anyways, and she has been working on something for the past couple years on becoming a qualified instructor. And we're going to get to all of that further along in our video here today, and also something very exciting that's going to be happening this summer. But first, usually what I find is that people who work with people who have dyslexia have a reason and a burden to help the kids, and there's a reason for it, just like I do, my son. And so I would really like to hear your story, if you wouldn't mind sharing that with us.
20 years ago, I would not have agreed to do this. But once you understand about dyslexia, it frees you to be able to tell your story. And so I was one who struggled in school. I can remember sitting in our first grade reading group and wondering, how do the other kids know where they are, and how do they know what to read when they get called on and when it's their turn? I remember struggling to learn to tell time on a clock with a face and hands. My mom would make a paper plate clock for us to practice, and we drilled and we drilled and we drilled and we drilled. Memorizing multiplication tables, adding, subtracting, that was a nightmare for me. I still will have to admit that there are times when I come to a multiplication table, I go, better write that one out and figure it out. Those things were just very difficult for me, and I struggled a whole lot. And it didn't help that I had a sister who was a straight A student and made straight A's until she was in 4th or 5th grade and cried over that. And I can remember thinking, I would be thrilled to have that B. But that was very difficult for me because it just made me feel that much more stupid than I felt already. I can remember hearing words like lazy. And I would try so hard not to be lazy, but I didn't know what I was doing that was making me lazy. I can remember very vividly sitting on the front steps of my home and thinking, I must be mentally retarded, because, nobody would come out and tell you, hey, you're mentally retarded, But I felt, that's how I felt inside. That's what I thought about myself. It affected our family. It affected my relationships with my family, because I believe they kind of looked at me as not being too smart, and so there were a lot of things that I was left out of because they didn't think I could understand them. And so yes, it does. It affects your family, and it affects your confidence. The hit that my confidence took has lasted a lifetime. It's one of those things that I have gradually had to learn, that my confidence comes from somewhere besides myself, and that's from my Creator. But it does give you a lack of self-confidence. So you would think that when I had children of my own and they started to struggle in school, that I would be the most understanding parent that there was, but that didn't happen either. Because I actually made it. The older I got, by college I graduated with honors. I learned how to make accommodations for myself. And so I thought, what my parents did, that must have worked. And so when my children started struggling, I did the same thing for them that my parents did for me, not realizing that I was destroying their self-confidence as well. And so as a teacher, I sometimes didn't know what to do. I had kids that would come through my class and I knew they were smart, but no matter what I did, I could not teach them to read well. And so I would hear dyslexia mentioned, but it was always mentioned as it's something that's very rare. They see things backwards, and I knew I didn't see things backwards, and I didn't think my son did. He never mentioned it. My daughter never mentioned seeing things backwards. So we just never assumed that was the issue. But
so your children were struggling too.
My children
you saw
were
children
struggling.
in your class struggle,
and I saw
and
my students.
Your own children.
My
were
students in
struggling.
my classroom were struggling. My own children were struggling. And I was supposed to be a teacher who knew how to teach reading, and I didn't. And with my children at home, I nagged, we yelled, we punished, we cried, we prayed. Praying was probably the only thing that helped, but the rest of it did not help at all. You can take if a child is dyslexic, you can take anything you want to away from them, and it's not going to change how they read or how they spell or how they learn. Everywhere we went as a family, we had a spelling book. We drove with it on the steering wheel, drilling spelling all the time. Homework consumed our family life. Not only the homework, but all the worksheets that they sent home that weren't finished.
Right.
So you ended up doing homework plus. We had no family time.
Right.
And it was when my youngest child was a senior in high school that I finally learned what dyslexia was. And that was at a conference for teachers, and I heard someone speaking about dyslexia, and I sat, and the whole time all I could do was cry because I could think of my children and what they had been through, and realizing that this is why they struggled. And then I began to think of my students and the faces of the students that I had taught in the past, and that I didn't know how to help. I did my best, but I didn't know how to help. It came to my mind, and that has driven me to seek to get help for kids that struggle.
Right. Yeah. I remember like that moment myself of realizing all the things that I had done wrong as a teacher and as a parent. I just didn't know.
It's hard to get past. You would like to go back and find all those students and say,
you do have to.
I can help you now.
Yeah, there is kind of a guilt.
Yes.
But you just didn't know.
No.
You can't be blamed. You just didn't know.
Didn't know. And that's the case for most teachers out there. Is one of the things we don't have in college. A lot of times is what do we do?
Yeah, the teachers want to help.
They would like to help. They just don't always know. So my daughter and I flew to California, and we learned to test. At the time it was called testing for dyslexia. Now we call it screening for dyslexia. And I did that for years and stayed in the classroom, but I began to realize that testing for dyslexia wasn't going to fix children, and which we don't fix them anyway. It wasn't going to help them. And so I wanted to do something I wanted to learn how to help the children. So I did go with a boxed program that as I did it, I began to realize I need to know more. I have to know more. My husband was pushing me to get my master's degree, and I said, if you find a college that has a master's degree in dyslexia therapy, I'll get it, but I'm not going for a piece of paper. And I really thought there wouldn't be one out there. So he sat down on
He
Sunday.
thought you were safe.
I thought I was safe,
No more school for me.
He sat down one Sunday afternoon, and he started, going through the internet looking for it. And the first one that popped up was Mississippi College. Had a dyslexia therapy program. We called that day, and sweet little lady answered the phone, and she said, I'll get that stuff to the mail to you today. And I said, well, you might as well send it to my daughter too. And so we have been, we went together to get our master's degree in dyslexia therapy there at Mississippi College.
So you traveled all that way.
We would fly. Well, we spent 2 summers. We spent 2 weeks down there, and then twice in the fall and twice in the spring for 2 years we would fly to Mississippi. Yeah,
and that's hard to find, is a degree in dyslexia therapy.
It is that there's very few. There are more coming, but there aren't a lot. And I wasn't going to go for a master's degree just to say that I had a master's degree. It had to mean something. It had to give me the tools that I needed to help my dyslexic kids.
Right.
So that's what we did. Sat for the ALTA exam and became a certified academic language therapist.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yep.
That's your story. That's amazing. So you are an academic language therapist. Can you tell me just what that means, what you do, and how would a parent find out, how would a parent find somebody like you with that kind of training?
Well, an certified academic language therapist is one who's been through a program that's approved by the Academic Language Therapy Association. Their program has to teach an Orton-Gillingham program. It has to be simultaneously multisensory. It has to be systematic. It has to be analytical teaching. It has to teach the structure of the English language, and it has to require 700 hours of therapy before you graduate from the program with 10 successful observations. And so if you have done that, then you can apply to sit for the test with ALTA and become a certified academic language therapy. When I graduated from Mississippi College, I graduated with a certification there as just a dyslexia therapist. But to become a certified academic language therapist, you sit for the national exam. Okay. So that's what that is. And to find one, if you want to find one in your area, you would go to www.alta.read.org.
Okay, and I will put that link down in the description box so that you'll have it there. Very good. Okay, that's a lot of training to go through, isn't it?
That is a lot of training, yes.
And we actually do similar work, both helping kids with dyslexia. But you've had a whole lot more training than I have.
Paid for a whole lot more training.
Yes. So I'm a certified Barton tutor. And so that leads me to what you have been working on for the last couple years and what you're going to be doing this summer. So could you tell us about that and kind of about your vision?
Okay, well, my daughter and I started this journey together. We went to California to learn to test and screen, and then we went to Mississippi College to become a dyslexia therapist. And interestingly, this program that we're doing actually comes and is based in Orton-Gillingham, the original Orton-Gillingham. Years ago, Anna Gillingham and Bessie Stillman were teaching people their method of teaching children with dyslexia, and they taught a lady named Sally Childs to do what they were doing. And in Texas, there was a school called the Shelton School, and they wanted their teachers to learn to be able to help kids with dyslexia. And so Anna Gillingham sent Sally Childs to Texas. And she went to the Shelton School and taught. And one of the ladies that was in her class was someone named Alec Cox. And Alec Cox began to work at Scottish Rite Hospital. And she and Dr. Lucius Waite began to do more research into dyslexia and things that work best with dyslexic children. They spent years and years developing their program with new research coming in. And so there, the program is called Alphabetic Phonics. And so that's sort of the program, the background where we have come. The two professors that I had in college, one of them actually was taught by Alec Cox, and the other one was trained at Shelton School. So it is an Orton-Gillingham program. But it is called Alphabetic Phonics there in Texas. And so that's kind of what the program is. And so I began to realize that one person alone was not going to reach all these children. And so I began to realize that I needed to go get the training there. So I went with one of my professors. She has a training center in Texas, Dallas, Texas, that's called LEAD. And I've been flying down there for the last 3 years, working on becoming a qualified instructor. And so because of that, my daughter and I are excited about starting this summer our first training center here. And our goal is to teach teachers. We want teachers, even classroom teachers. They may not want to become dyslexia therapists right now, but what a difference it makes to a teacher if they understand the structure of the English language, if they understand what dyslexic children, how they learn and how to teach them. All children can learn the way dyslexic children learn, but dyslexic children cannot learn the way everybody else learns. And so it would just make so much more sense to teach even in the classroom the way dyslexic children learn, then everybody gets it.
Right.
And so we want to teach teachers. We want to teach people who are interested in helping children, parents that want to do this, who have a child, who have a real burden for kids, just like their own children. Some retired teachers that they are no longer in the classroom, but they still have that love of teaching and would love to teach one-on-one a child who just doesn't get it. We would love to reach some of those. The requirement is that you do have to have a college degree, and to be able to apply for the program. But otherwise, we would love and welcome anyone who is interested in working with dyslexic children. I've found that as much as I love teaching my children, I love teaching people who love my kids and my dyslexic children. So we're hoping that we'll have a good class to start with, and then this will be something we will do every summer from now on.
Well, good. Yeah, well, I'm excited to be in your first class. Excited to learn more. So if someone who is watching would be interested in learning more about your class, maybe joining it, or they think of somebody who they know who might be interested in, how could they find out more about it? Do you have a Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page called 1 in 5.
Oh, you should show your
And I do have,
beautiful.
Yes. It actually has the picture like this on it, and this tells all about our program. But yes, there's a Facebook page. If you're interested in talking with me, you can email me at dyslexicdiamonds@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to talk with you and share more about the program. But that would be how to get in touch with us.
Yeah, okay. I will put links to all of those things, her email and then the Facebook page, to 1 in 5, the name of your program. Oh, and by the way, you're calling it 1 in 5 because approximately 1 in 5 people are dyslexic. Mm-hmm.
And in the classroom, many times it'll be 1 in 5, and sometimes it can be higher depending on the makeup of a classroom.
Right. Yeah. And in my experience in the classroom, that's just about right.
That is about right, yes.
Well, you have taught me so much about dyslexia and what real teaching really is, how we are really reaching the kids. And so could you just very quickly share just a little piece of advice for teachers and parents?
Okay. For teachers, the best advice I can give you is learn everything you can about dyslexia. One of the best books I always suggest for teachers is to read Sally Shaywitz's book, Overcoming Dyslexia. There's many others out there. I'm sure you have that on your shelf.
To have.
Yes.
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 Very good. See, look, I've been reading.
If you are dyslexic, it's tough reading.
Is it on audio? Is there an audio version?
There probably is.
I don't know.
But I struggled through it all by myself. But the first section especially is the scientific part of dyslexia. The proof, how they know how the brain works, how they know what makes a dyslexic child different from the average learner. And the back section is great for teachers because it shares with you how to teach dyslexic children. So it's a very, very good book. So I would tell you to learn all you can about dyslexia, and then learn the structure of the English language. I can remember as a teacher, some of my children would say, Miss Hightower, why does give and have an E at the end when it's not give and have? And I would say, well, that's just our English language. I don't know why, just memorize it. Mm-hmm. And every teacher should know why that silent E is on that letter, on that word, because it's a very important rule. And it goes through all of our English language. You never end an English word with a V. It has to have a silent E. Had I known that, well, that would have helped my kids. So there's a lot of things about the structure of our language we are not taught in college. It's not in our curriculum. In fact, much of our curriculum is dumbed down English, and the structure of the language just isn't there. Even if you have a phonics program, very often you don't call them by what they are. You often call them special sounds or consonant blends or those kind of things. You don't actually call them by what their technical name is. And so our kids learn exactly what the English language is about and the structure. Very important for teachers to know that.
Yeah, and that's what it takes for people with dyslexia.
They have to know why. Mm-hmm. And that's what, really knowing the structure of the English language, you can tell your child why things are spelled the way they are, and why you read or pronounce a word the way you read it and pronounce it. And so it's very, very important for teachers who teach reading, and even teachers who just teach language, to understand the structure. The older your students are, the more they need to know about the morphemes in our language, and very little information.
And a morpheme is
It's the smallest part of meaning of a word. The prefix, suffix, sometimes Latin roots, Greek word parts are considered the morphemes of our language.
Because you can figure out what a word means often but if you know the parts.
You can take a big word apart and figure out exactly what it means by knowing the meaning of the suffix, the prefix, and the root. So it's very important. And then I would say to teachers, give accommodations when you know they're needed. Don't wait for a piece of paper documenting that a child is this or that. If you know they would do better if you did less spelling words on a list, if you knew they would do better if you taught them a certain way, just do it. Don't wait for a piece of paper to tell you this is what we should do, because we should teach children the way they learn. And then for parents, I would say again, learn everything you can learn about dyslexia. Be careful about the internet. I know we're on internet right now, but be careful, because there are some crazy things out there. And I always tell parents, if it sounds crazy, it is crazy, because what we do to help dyslexic kids is not do crazy therapies or actions or different things that, I've heard, you need to go back and recrawl because you missed the crawling section of your life, and so if it sounds stupid, it's stupid. But going to reputable websites is important, and learn all that you can.
Based in research.
Based in research and scientific research, not necessarily someone who's trying to prove their method is the best.
Right.
Because anybody can prove what they want to sometimes in those things. The other thing that I would say is do not sacrifice your home life on the altar of homework.
Right.
You may not be the teacher's best friend when you come in and say, we did not do this homework because we have a family and we have family time, and it was running into our family time. But it is so important not to let school become what your home life is all about. You lose your relationship with your children very quickly if all you do every evening is homework and you never have fun together. So I would say don't sacrifice your home life on that altar of homework.
And that kind of is advice for teachers too.
Yes, please don't.
To be understanding.
Please don't
send those worksheets home.
Yes, definitely. Tear those things up and throw them away. But also remember that life is not like school. And so I know that you're going to be tempted to do just like I did and think, oh dear, what's going to happen to my children? They can't read well. What are they going to become? My kids have become just exactly what God created them to be. Successful, useful workers, and yours will be too if you encourage them and tell them to keep trying. Find things that they are good at, and let that be the thing that they judge themselves by, not the schoolwork that they do that's so hard. It's so hard for our kids to prove their intelligence on a piece of paper.
Right.
And so, keep looking for a way for them to succeed, and just love them unconditionally. Be there for them, be their advocate, fight for them. Even if everybody at the school says, oh, here comes Miss So-and-so again, just be there. Just keep fighting for them.
Yeah, because you're going to be there long after that teacher is out of your life the next year.
Yes, you're their advocate until they can advocate for themselves.
Yeah, that's all wonderful advice for teachers and parents. Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you have shared with us. I feel like I have learned so much just right now. So I'm really looking forward to your class that'll be starting this summer. Don't forget to check that out. Share the information with others. And we might have to have you back to get some more of your wisdom. This has gone really well.
Thanks.
So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and let us know in the comments below if you have any questions. And once again, if you're interested in that training at all, be sure to look below. We've got all the links that you need. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.